Breaking news. It's happening. 194 liberals are heading to prison at once. All face a decade behind bars. The election of Donald Trump as President of the United States has brought out some of the most unspeakable and uncivilized behavior that leftists have displayed in years. A year later, and America still witnesses the occasional meltdown and protest filled with triggered not-much president blubberings that often lead to violence and screaming at the sky. The people responsible for the violence, destruction, and chaos that ensued from the protests will soon learn their fate as 194 liberals could perform their final march in a sea of orange jumpsuits and face decades in prison. Can't protest much in the shower when the soap falls in front of them and they know what happens next. Trump's inauguration sparked the chaotic scene where protesters caused numerous police officers to be hospitalized. People were violent, and there was at least $100,000 worth of damages done. Protesting is legal, but violence and destruction during protests are not, hence the arrests were made as a direct result of people breaking the law. There's peaceful protest, then there are protests attacking people, and only one of the two is legal. According to police, protesters, some of whom were armed with hammers and trash cans, smashed Starbucks and Bank of America windows, torched a parked limo, set, purchased, "Make America Great Again" souvenirs aflame, and sprayed "Revolution or Death" on walls of local buildings. Police in riot gear responded by surrounding the march and unleashing rubber bullets, water cannons, flash grenades, and pepper spray. Seeing that protesters smashed and destroyed Starbucks, liberally oriented business, leads me to believe one of two things. 1. Protesters are inherently uneducated and oblivious to their surroundings, too blind to realize they destroyed a business run by leftists who probably hires leftists as well. Nothing like ruining someone's weekend by destroying the place where they work and earn a living. Just because protesters don't want to work, that doesn't make it right for them to destroy other people's jobs. 2. The fact they destroyed Starbucks could also mean they were paid to protest. Paid protesters will hit cruise control on the destroy everything speed, and they don't care about what breaks, what burns, or anything for that matter. They're there to do a job, and they certainly succeeded on the day of Trump's inauguration. I didn't care that protesters smashed Bank of America, though. Not one bit. Why didn't one of them go inside and hack all the records to erase all credit cards owned by BOFA? That would have put the hero status on a lot of people, and I'd be there handing out capes. But no, the protesters merely destroyed just to destroy. There was no true purpose other than to cause unrest that led to 194 people facing convictions. Now 194 people arrested at the protests face up to decades in prison in what legal observers have dubbed an unprecedented assault on protest. After all, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia has slapped almost all of the defendants with felony charges of incitement to riot and destruction of property, among other charges. The first trial of 6 individuals, including a journalist, was set to begin with jury selection Wednesday in D.C. Superior Court. It's to be followed by a series of others, since the court could not hear all the cases at once. If any legal observers see this as an assault on the legal right to protest, then they should revisit the video evidence of said protesters destroying property, lighting fires, fighting with people, and doing very bad non-protest actions. There's a difference between protesting and making noise versus lighting things on fire and destroying a coffee shop that sells overpriced bean water. To see the District of Columbia provide many of the 194 defendants with felony charges is a step in the right direction that could help prevent future protest from erupting into a massive scene of uneventful chaos. This is where the law should make a stand against the protesting group that thinks violence is included in protests. Violence is not part of protesting and should not be categorized as a protest, because then it opens the doors for future protesters to use violence on people, animals, and places while saying it's from my protest. Now is the time for a judge, or judges, to remind 194 people that destroying Starbucks, a bank, and causing harm to police officers is still against the law. One cannot injure or destroy in the name of protest and get away with it. 194 people could be in jail doing the time for their crime. I don't want the protesters to spend their life in jail, but a few years for burning down a business or hurting people could be a fair sentence. It's all based on what each individual crime the people committed. They're not all responsible for the same exact violation, So the court system should be fair when handing out sentences. The worst crime should get the most times. Hopefully, some of the violators are only in prison for a little bit. Why? Because Trump will still be president when they're released from jail, and nothing could be more magical than that. So